All right. Think think we're ready to get started. Thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Anna Meir. I am the Talent Program Manager here at the Institute for Workforce Excellence. My colleague Caitlin is on the call as well. She's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in there and she will either answer them or point them out to me when we take a break. And with that, we will get started. Just some background for those of you folks who've never heard of us. We are the Institute for Workforce Excellence. We are a nonprofit subsidiary of the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, led in collaboration with stakeholders from business, community, education, and government. And our mission is to help Indiana cultivate the Hoosier talent needed to drive a highly skilled and equitable workforce. And we do that through strategic collaborative partnerships, again, between business, community, education, and government. One of the programs we run is probably why you're here. It is called Work and Learn Indiana. So we'll kick off with that. Work and Learn Indiana has been around for a while. It was created in 2001. If you've been in the work-based learning arena for a while, you might remember it as Indiana InternNet. We changed that name because there was a little bit of confusion about what services exactly we offered. Didn't want to be confused as an internet service provider. So Work and Learn is the catalyst for expanding the creation and use of experiential learning opportunities as a key strategy to retaining Indiana's top talent. So you might have heard a while back about Indiana's brain drain. This initiative was built as one of the responses to that in a way to hopefully retain Indiana's talent. Our program, I should say, was originally hosted by the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce in partnership with the University of Indianapolis. It was later transitioned to us here at the Indiana Chamber, in part because of our statewide reach and the hope that we could access and engage partners across the whole state of Indiana. Work and Learn Indiana at its core is a free work-based learning matching program that links together anyone looking for a work-based learning opportunity, the educators who are helping students and work-based learning seekers find those opportunities, and then the employers who, of course, offer the internship and experiential learning. Work and Learn Indiana, how it works. So our employers, that's most of you here on the call, I would presume, are the drivers of everything. Without you guys being willing to offer the work-based learning opportunity, our students don't have anywhere to go and we don't have anything to offer. So we appreciate our employers for being the catalyst for this program and that without your help, we don't have an offering. So everything kicks off with the employer creating their own account on workandlearnindiana.com and posting that first work-based learning experience to our site. We here at the Institute then approve and, we review first and approve work-based learning opportunities after we make sure that the employer has a plan for the internship and also that it meets our quality criteria, which I'll touch base on here in the later part of the presentation. At that point, the work-based learning opportunity shows up on Work and Learn Indiana's site, which functions a little bit like a job board, but specific to internships that are specific to the state of Indiana. So unless you are an Indiana employer offering an Indiana internship, unfortunately, we don't offer internships outside of the state. We are focused inside of the state of Indiana because that's where we want to focus our efforts on Indiana talent. On the other half of the equation, we have our students. They create their own profile on workandlearnindiana.com as well. At that point, if they are part of the EARN program, at the high school level, an educator will enroll them in the EARN program, or if they are a post-secondary student, they can verify their own eligibility for the EARN program through a short form that's embedded on our website. At that point, then the student can apply for those opportunities that are visible to them on that internship board, or if the employer already knows who they want to hire, they can simply tell us who they've hired by marking the internship as filled with that intern. That's a very high level approach. There's a few more ins and outs, but one of my jobs here at the Institute is to provide that support. So if you reach out with questions, you'll probably get a hold of me and I'll be the one helping you figure out the next steps. Just a quick overview of Work and Learn Indiana by the numbers. Last year, we had 96% of our internships were paid, which we think is great. Of those, the paid internships had an average wage of $15.60 per hour. Of course, the internships span the range from $7.25 at minimum to a couple of really enterprising employers who offered a $30 an hour internship, which is not by any means required, but those were in high demand. Earn eligibility. Nearly all Indiana high school students are eligible for Earn, so they represent a very large pool of candidates to pull from, especially if you're interested in accessing the Earn Indiana wage reimbursement. And then we had over 1,200 college Earn eligible students join our platform in 2024. We've not pulled the numbers for 2025 because we're pretty early in the year, but we've not seen that number significantly dip for any reason here recently. As we are part of the Chamber did a member survey in 2024 that found that over 40% of the respondents indicated that workforce attraction, training, and retention was their #1 challenge in the coming year. And we believe that adopting a work-based learning program can help address those workforce challenges by helping to train the workforce that you're hoping to see in the future. And for our next part, we'll touch base on the Earn Indiana program. So Earn Indiana is I want to say sister program. It is offered in partnership with the Indiana Commission for Higher Education, and it comes alongside of our Work and Learn Indiana program to provide employers with up to a 50% wage reimbursement for hiring Earn eligible students. Earn Indiana was launched in 2013 for Hoosier College students, and it's provided support for students with financial need to gain access to quality work-based learning experiences. It was going so well that in 2019, the General Assembly expanded Earn eligibility to include high school students. And so now, as you see in our presentation, Earn eligibility and Earn internships can include high school students and college students. The way that the wage reimbursement works is that the employer needs to have an Earn approved internship and also hire an Earn eligible student in order to receive that 50% wage reimbursement. So without both pieces of that equation, the Earn wage reimbursement does not happen. And as I mentioned earlier, we're here to help answer those questions about whether or not you have a qualified internship or how to determine if your student is. So we're happy to help. So this slide is probably a little overwhelming, but have no fear. These are the quality, those are the quality requirements that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And especially for our first-time users, we go through these with you to make sure that you're meeting these before we send your internship over to the state for that Earn approval. So we are the only platform that offers the Earn wage reimbursement. So employers who are interested in utilizing it must register their internship on Work and Learn Indiana. The cap for that wage reimbursement per fiscal year is a pretty generous $45,000, and that fiscal year aligns with the state's fiscal year of July 1 to June 30th. So every time that July 1 start date is crossed, then there's a new pool of $45,000 for each employer to pull from. And then employers need to submit all hours related to their internship to the state by no later than 30 days after the recorded end of the internship. So after that deadline, there's not a whole lot of recourse. So we really encourage our employers to submit prior to that deadline, just in case, so there's no delay. In addition, the internship needs to be paid an hourly wage because that's how the internship reimbursement is calculated. So if you're paying $10 an hour for your intern, you'll get $5 an hour back. The internship needs to be at minimum 8 weeks long, but no longer than 365 days. And that is because the student themselves has only 365 days of eligibility. Past that period, you're welcome to keep the intern on, but you couldn't submit more hours for that specific internship in the Earn program. Or sorry, you couldn't submit more hours for that specific intern in the Earn program. The internship must provide 12 hours per week minimum of work for the intern. And during the school year, no more than 20 hours per week during the academic school year. During the summer, those hours increase. So between roughly mid-April to mid-August, the intern can work up to 40 hours per week, and you could receive reimbursement for up to 40 hours per week of work. The duties and responsibilities of the intern should not be political or sectarian in nature, and that is because these are state funds, so they don't want their funds to be applied to anyone's political campaign or to religious or pastoral duties. That's not to say that the intern can't work for a government office, perhaps doing HR or IT, something along those lines, or that they couldn't work for a church, but perhaps providing the music or running, being part of the daycare service, for example, just some that we've come across. If you have questions about whether or not your internship qualifies, we're happy to help you answer those. No more than 25% of the internship should be administrative in nature. And what we mean by that is no more than 25% of the internship should be made up of things like filing papers, making copies, answering phones, scheduling meetings. Those are all great skills to have. And of course, most jobs have some component of those, but the state wants to focus their reimbursement efforts on quality experiential learning, which provides interns access to the primary work of the business that they're working within. So they need to be in project work, in client calls. We actually have a guide if you have questions about what qualifies as administrative versus not administrative, and we're happy to help answer that or share that with you.
Hey, Anna, I'm going to
Yes.
interrupt you really quick because
Mhm.
we had two questions that were well, I guess one question that we've discussed before. If a student is graduating in May, I believe they mean a high school student, can they enroll as a high school participant since they are going to the workforce rather than a college or university, or would they be ineligible overall regardless?
Let me just to summarize, if they are graduating in May, they're a high school student graduating in May,
Mhm.
but they're not planning to go to college, would they be eligible for earn funding?
Yes, I know that we've had a conversation about the high school eligibility, especially after graduation.
Gotcha. Okay. So high school earn um, has an expiration date for those high school students, and the cutoff is June 30th of the year that they graduate from high school. So if, for example, that intern had an internship that ran from May 1 to June 30th, they might just squeeze in the door for an 8-week minimum internship, but it would be very tight. Past June 30th, they would no longer be eligible for high school earn, and if they're not enrolled in college, and completing a FAFSA for that college, then they would not be eligible for college earn. Does that make sense? Let's see. Did that capture the answer to that question, Caitlin? You think?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, can you briefly touch on the question about if it applies to apprentices? I know that we also have had some
hmm
cases in which uh, that's occurred at both the high school and college level.
hmm So, apprenticeships, especially, well, I shouldn't say especially, but I know apprenticeships have a specific definition, um, and sometimes that's aligned to policy, especially at the state level. Off the top of my head, I'm not qualified to speak to what exactly that definition is without referencing some materials. Um, but we have had folks submit apprenticeships as internships through our site. So just like any other internship, they would record the details of that apprenticeship in our system. Now, the caveat is apprenticeships are typically longer than 1 year. So at the end of the day, they would submit perhaps the first year of their apprenticeship. They would say it starts January 1, ends 12/31, sorry, December 31. And then they would get that first year, perhaps, of that internship covered under the earn funding. So apprenticeships that run longer than that 1 year time frame, you could record the first year of it, but you couldn't get coverage for the longer length of time. So that's how we've had apprenticeships come in and operate through the earned funding program previously. They would also still have to meet all of the other quality requirements that I'm working through here on this presentation. So they'd still have to meet all of these, be approved by the state, and then they would be submitted to our site and essentially be an internship. I hope if that makes sense. All right. I think that touches on all the questions we had in the chat here. I will finish out this slide here. So I was talking about administrative. I think I got through all of that. We're basically talking about, yeah, we don't want students to be stuck in a role that's not providing them depth of experience across the whole of the business that they're working for. So in addition, no more than 50% of the workforce can be made up of interns because the state doesn't want their funding displacing full-time workers. So, for example, if you have two full-time employees, you can hire two full-time, or sorry, if you have two full-time employees, you can hire two earn interns because that would be equivalent to 50% of your workforce. If you have a lot of part-time employees, the state does have a formula to figure out what that equivalency would be. I can't speak to it off the top of my head, but if that's a question for you guys, we can run that up the flagpole, as it were. No other federal work study funds can be received for the wage of the student. So this includes things like the employer training grant, where it supplements the wage of the student in that program. However, things like the career scholarship accounts are eligible because they don't fund the wage of the student. They're supplemental in other ways. In addition, especially in the high school space, we highly encourage all of our employers to complete a training plan with the schools that they're partnering with as a matter of best practice. A training plan goes over the responsibilities of the intern, the expectations of the program, any competencies that they'll be gaining as a part of this program, if there's any assessment or credit earned at the completion of the internship. And then, of course, especially for students under the age of 18, if there's any liability or guardian concerns that need to be addressed or recorded, discussed before the start of the internship. And then finally, any and all edits or changes to an earned internship must be sent to us here at the Institute so that we can help moderate those and keep our records in alignment with the state's records at the Commission for Higher Education. These changes, this is not all inclusive, but it could include things like changes to your start or end date, changes to the wage amount, if there's a raise, or if you think, we're not getting a lot of response, maybe if we increase the wage amount. If you've hired more interns than you expected to and you need more space in your internship, we're happy to help with that. So I think that covers the main parts of the earn internship requirements. On the next page, I've got these slides out of order, so that's very fun. Sorry about that. You'll note that there's one more level of requirements for high school earned internships, and that is alignment with industry. So when the state expanded the EARN program to include high school students, they wanted to align the industries to the next level jobs industries to make sure that internships were being promoted in these areas of high wage and high demand. So when you submit an internship to us, we will also evaluate if the job duties and responsibilities of the intern align with these categories. So just to repeat, this does not mean that the company you work for has to fit into one of these industry categories. It means that the duties the intern will be performing in their role should align with these categories. I will say that it generally captures most industries. Things where we might have a hard time aligning tend to be stuff like retail, which does provide great learning opportunities, but doesn't fit into the categories where the state has chosen to focus its funding for the high school programs. In the college level, we don't have this industry requirement. So if you're working with college students, you don't have to worry about meeting this specific requirement. And then since my slides were out of order, we'll go back and discuss student eligibility criteria. So at the
Hey,
college,
Anna. So
yes, go
sorry,
right
before
ahead.
you go in, uh, can you elaborate? Is the training plan for the high school earn employer-led?
It depends on the relationship that the employer has with the school. So as I'll mention probably a little bit later in this presentation, at the high school level, there is a stronger relationship between the employer and the school simply because schools and employers tend to work more locally, whereas with a college student, you might, put out a statewide search and get somebody who would be willing to perhaps move for the summer, or they're looking for someone closer to college versus their hometown. Um, there is not a specific requirement on one direction or the other. The employer sometimes initiates that discussion, sometimes the school does because they have requirements they need to meet for the state or for their own credentials or just for the satisfaction of the school in general to make sure that their intern and their student are in a quality experience. So there's no right, wrong, specific direction that relationship generally goes. We just mentioned as a matter of best practice because in our discussions with schools, especially high schools, we found that to be a strong component of a great work-based learning opportunity, especially in the high school space. And in response to Tracy's question, we probably could dig up an example. I don't know if I've included it in this presentation. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I haven't. I think we have an example somewhere. We'll try to note that down and see if I can get one for you. Um, so eligibility criteria. In the college space, a student needs to be an Indiana resident, a permanent resident, I should say, They cannot have a bachelor's degree prior to the term that they plan to work. They need to be enrolled at least part-time, if not full-time, but part-time is acceptable at an Indiana college or university. And then they also need to meet a financial component, which is having a student aid index of no greater than 24,570. This is probably not something the college intern will know, but it can be determined through a short form that is embedded in the Work and Learn Indiana site. So if they create their account, they should be prompted to fill out that short form, and it will tell them in real time if they're eligible or if they're not. On the high school side of things, the student needs to be an Indiana permanent resident. They need to be attending an Indiana secondary school or career center. They need to be otherwise eligible to receive state and federal funding. And then, as I mentioned previously, their eligibility expires June 30th of the year that they graduate from high school. So we also put in here that students, funds cannot be applied to a co-op course. So we have some schools that still operate programs where a student receives credit just for attending their place of employment. Those typically aren't eligible for earned funding simply because the employer hasn't gone through the process of making sure that they're offering a quality work-based learning experience. So um, other than that, that does include quite a wide swath of high school students. So we mentioned that nearly all of them are eligible because that is true. Nearly all of them are eligible for funding. There's only a very few, some perhaps that attend school in Indiana but live just across the border in a neighboring state, for example, that might be ineligible. Um, we do have quite a large number of high school earn locations that are already in operation. So over 100 of them that we have worked with in the past since we've started offering this program, and then 69 of them that are currently actively enrolling students in this school year. So since July 1 of 2024. We onboard new schools all the time. So I think actually I've met with a school and we're actually at 70 now, and I just haven't had a chance to update this presentation. If you are interested in working with a school that we don't yet have represented, we're happy to meet with that school, help figure out who can help enroll those high school students in the EARN program, and get you guys on board. If you are a high school educator on this call, or if you know of a high school educator who wants to get started, we have an interest form on our website that's actually embedded, and the link is down there at the bottom of the page. They can fill out that form and that will automatically set up an email with me where I will talk to them about their part in enrolling students in the EARN program at the high school level, and we can get that relationship started. So before I jump into the Work and Learn Indiana site and how it operates and how you can create your own account, do we have any questions that need to be touched on here?
Can a high school student be enrolled in a work-based learning program through a high school and participate in EARN?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes. So when I say co-op, I'm not talking, I want to specify that that's programs where they're just getting credit for attending their place of employment. So there's no other, um, I don't know, co-op spreads or spans such a wide number of definitions across the state. So um, yeah, I've lost my train of thought there. It spans such a wide definition, a wide spectrum of definitions across the state of Indiana. Um, so yes, they can, if a student is, even if a student is in a co-op program, but they're also going to a different work-based learning program that has gone through the work of becoming an EARN eligible program, then that's fine. The student would be eligible in that capacity, just not for attending their job perhaps at McDonald's. So I hope that helps clarify things. And then I think Tracy just asked if a current employee is enrolled in college, could they qualify? Most likely, yes. They would have to meet that financial aid component. So they fill out a FAFSA to attend college, presumably. And as long as they are enrolled in college and have filled out a FAFSA and then meet that student aid maximum or below that student aid maximum, then they could be eligible for EARN. So it's not age limited so much as you have to meet those other requirements of the student eligibility.
It also will need to meet the work-based learning component in terms
Yes.
of explaining the mentorship that the student will receive,
Hmm.
their like training plan, what skills you plan on developing for them, all of that kind of stuff.
Yes, yes, you will have to offer an internship or a work-based learning experience for that employee to fill. They can't just do their job as a part of it and then receive the wage reimbursement. Great catch, Caitlin. All right, we'll keep things moving along here. Inside of Work and Learn Indiana, so Work and Learn Indiana is free and accessible to anybody who wishes to join. Um, you'll start by going to workandlearnindiana.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there is that login register button, and then you will click on Sign Up Now. From there, it will ask you to specify what kind of account you're creating. I would surmise that most of you on this call, if not all of you, are either an employer or an educator. So you'll select that option, and then you'll type your company's name into the organization box there. If we already have you in the system, it will actually pop up in the drop-down menu, and you'll click on it, and that will pretty much fill in the rest of the questions on the page. We've been around since 2001, I mentioned, so we have quite a lot of companies in here. So it's possible somebody eons ago from your company created a record for you guys, and it's just been waiting for someone else to come along and pick it up again. If not, though, or if you type in the name and it's already in there, we'll get you to the right place. You'll end up in a workspace specific to your company, and if there's history there, bonus. We will then review your application to join Work and Learn Indiana. We'd like to check and just make sure that people who join are from Indiana. They've got they've got a job with the company, and they're here for good purposes. We send out an email once we've approved your request to join, and we'll also send resources in that email, including things like the employer guide and next steps. Once you get into your workspace, this is a bit like what it would look like. Your company name would be across the top of the workspace. If you and somebody from HR, for example, and the hiring manager all need to be in your workspace, you can all create your own logins to this and see the same information and have the same history inside of the workspace. On the right-hand side of the page, there is that workspace links section where you can make edits to your organization's profile, such as adding a logo. If it's been a while since somebody's been in here, you can update the address perhaps or the URL. So that is all available to you. You can also add different locations if you have a couple different campuses across the state of Indiana and your internships are happening at those locations. And you can also invite other users from your company. On the left-hand side, there is that big blue Add an Internship button, which is what most of you are probably after. That is how you will begin by adding your new internship to the workspace and starting to tell us a little bit about it. When you create an internship posting, there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. We'll obviously ask for the common things like the title of the internship, the start and the end date, but also we'll ask whether or not it's paid. And then if it's paid, and we'll ask you whether it's hourly or a stipend, and we'll ask you the amount, of course. What's critical is if you are interested in using Earn Indiana funding, you have to select that it's paid for the rest of these questions to open up. If you don't select that it's paid, we won't even give you the opportunity to ask because Earn funding is not available for an unpaid internship. If you select yes, that you'd like to use Earn Indiana funding, then it will request you to specify whether you want to use high school or college funding. You cannot use both types of funding on the same internship. So if you want to hire a college marketing intern and a high school marketing intern, you have to create two separate postings, and on one of them specify it's college earn, and on the other one specify high school earn. And that's just the way that the funding is split up at the state level, unfortunately. So no workaround for that one. There's also the question that we'll ask if you've already filled this position or if you want to use our site to recruit for the intern. So if you've already got someone in mind and you know they're earn eligible, click yes. Or if you're still recruiting or you want that time window to recruit for the student, you can select no, and then the internship will go live and be posted for people to see and apply to. See here. There's going to be other questions on here. I didn't want to bore you through the whole of the internship application process, but they will also ask for a description of the things that Caitlin mentioned previously. So how is this an experiential learning opportunity? What kind of mentorship and guidance and training will the student receive? What are the duties and responsibilities of the intern, of course? And then also, are there any competencies that they should be expected to be able to perform at the end of it? There's also a field for qualifications and the skills that you want your intern to have. On this last page is the earn application. At the very top is a space for you to provide your FEIN. I think one of the questions in the chat is regarding the FEINs. If you have different tax identification numbers for your company based on different campuses, each of those FEINs is eligible for the $45,000 reimbursement. There's also questions near the bottom of the page that will ask you about the number of hours you're expecting the intern to work in the week. And then at the very bottom, you'll click submit, and you should get a big green success button that says, yay, you've submitted. We're going to review your internship. If not, if there's errors, you should get a big red message that kind of indicates what those errors are, and you can go through and correct those as needed. Once you've submitted your internship, this is what it should look like. Pending the success message, it should say pending over here, which indicates that we are going to look at it and make sure it meets those quality criteria. If it says something like saved, that means there's something missing or you haven't actually submitted it. So you'll want to check and make sure that it says pending, or if it's active in recruiting, it should say active. If you have questions about that status, again, we're here to help. Alrighty. Any questions I need to answer here? Let me scan through quick.
You should be good,
Caitlin.
I think.
Okay. All right. Scholar Track. So Scholar Track is the site where employers report student hours worked for the wage reimbursement. It is managed by our partners at the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. And what will happen is the very first time you submit a earn internship through Work and Learn Indiana, the commission will set up the Scholar Track account for you. And when your internship is approved for Earn, they will then send you an email that says, we've approved you, let's finish setting up your account, and they will request that you submit some financial documentation through that Scholar Track site. It will be a W-9 and a direct deposit form, and then they will also have you sign an Earn agreement. We've included the contact information for ScholarTrack on here because while we have some information about how ScholarTrack operates, we don't directly manage it. So there are some things that we cannot help with, but we're happy to send you over to them if you reach out and we can't answer your question right off the bat. I mentioned that when you get that first Earn internship approved, you will get a message from our partners at the Commission for Higher Education. It will come from a do not reply at che.in.gov email address, which unfortunately does tend to end up in spam and junk folders. So we tell folks to keep an eye out in those folders, and then worst case scenario, reach out and we'll try to see. Approval does sometimes take a little while, so if you're not seeing things right away, don't panic. Anyways, this is what that notification email will look like. So it will have your name at the top of it. It will indicate the specific internship that you've been approved for Earn for. It will have the number of positions, the wage, and the period. So that's that start and end date of your internship. Outside of that time frame, your internship is not eligible for Earn funding. So if your internship needs to go on longer than you've expected and you need to extend it, you need to let us know because that Earn approval is for that specific time period at that specific wage and that specific number of interns. If any of those change, let us know so that we can help make those adjustments. This notification email from the state will also include a link and instructions for finishing the setup of your ScholarTrack account. So it will ask you to reset your password and then submit those documents that we talked about, a W-9, a direct deposit form, and that signed Earn agreement. Once you've gone through, finished setting up the ScholarTrack account, then the last step is finding your intern. You can do that through our site, especially for the college students. College students are represented on here through student profiles. So if you're looking for interns and wanting to reach out to them directly, or if you're reviewing the applicants on your workspace, those students that are Earn eligible will have a green Earn flag on the top of their profile. In this example, just because Tyler and Joseph don't have an Earn flag does not necessarily mean that they are not Earn eligible. It could just mean that they haven't gone through the process of filling out that short form to figure out their eligibility. Just as a reminder, you do need to hire an Earn eligible student in order to get the reimbursement for your Earn internship. High school students are a little bit more complicated. You'll probably notice that you don't see a whole lot, if any of them, with an Earn flag on their profile. That is because due to privacy concerns, high school students, they have limited visibility because they are underage. And the eligibility criteria does convey a little bit of information about their demographic and things like that. So high school students are typically hired through personal relationship with the school, and we work to you as the employer, and then me as a contact point, and the school work together to finish the earn enrollment process and to make sure the student is connected to the internship appropriately. So that said, you know who you want to hire for your internship. We've determined that they're earn eligible. You'll go back into your workspace and you'll find your internship over here, and you'll look for this icon that says, or that is a person with a plus sign, and you'll click on it and you'll mark your internship as filled. Do you want to make sure that you are using either the select an applicant or search for an intern option to search for your intern by name? There is unfortunately this little form down here where you can type in the information, but if you do that, you are not going to get the earn reimbursement because the information will not be appropriately connected. So just to emphasize, you want to make sure you're using the select an applicant or search for an intern option. Then you will be asked to fill in the intern's start and end date and then click save. If you've done everything and it's worked correctly, which it should, your student's name should appear over here on the right-hand side with the start date and this little earn flag. Again, green for college, yellow for high school. We have a little guide, so if you get to this part and don't remember, we can send you the guide that goes through all of these steps with screenshots so that you can make sure that you're getting everything done correctly. This flag over here also means that the information that you've just filled out regarding your intern will be transmitted over to your ScholarTrack account. And from there, you can begin submitting hours for your intern and receiving that wage reimbursement. To round things out, we do have quite a bunch of resources available to folks who use Work and Learn Indiana. And then just for folks interested in having an internship in general. So we have a free employer guide that's available on our website to anyone who's interested. You don't even have to use Work and Learn if you want to make use of this, although we would definitely love to have you. But it includes information for creating quality internship postings, tips about interviewing students, onboarding considerations, mentoring and training responsibilities, the types of tasks interns can perform, and examples. It has some forms and guides in the back, and then also instructions for just thinking about program sustainability in the long term. So a great resource for anybody who's hosting an intern. We also have an extensive FAQ page, which you can find on our website. So if you have questions, you can start there and see if anybody else has already answered that question. We're available as a resource as well. We also have an option to connect with us. So, of course, our email is workandlearnindiana or workandlearnin@indianachamber.com. I've included our events page on here because it includes training. So further introduction to Work and Learn Indiana and Earn Indiana webinars, other webinars that might be of interest to you. We've also got a newsletter that goes out. Caitlin is actually in charge of that, and she does a great job. So you can subscribe there if you're interested. And then, of course, here's my contact information. With all of that, I am ready to open things up to questions. So what do we got? Actually, Caitlin might have touched on both of these, but any other questions? Feel free to unmute or put them in the chat.
You might have answered all of them, Anna.
Let's say we might have. Yes. Does it matter that the W-9 would be from our HQ in Michigan? That is a great question. I'm
Usually,
not
as long as as long as the work itself is taking place in Indiana, historically that's been fine. Usually it doesn't matter because people have different payroll processing like organizations and contracts with different providers, so it's not an immediate red flag as long as the work is taking place here.
Okay, thank you. I was unable to unmute is why I had to type the question. Now I figured out how to unmute, but we have our W-9 from our headquarters in Michigan, but we have a specific tax ID number for Indiana. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And the work is being done in Indiana.
Mhm. Great question. Thank you. Thanks for answering, Caitlin, because I didn't actually know the answer to that one. Looks like Caitlin's done a great job of answering these in the chat. Ooh. On average, how many interns are placed? That is not an answer that I think I could pull out of the top of my head. The I mean, we run those numbers at the end of the year, but I don't think I could pull an average out.